If the government has the power and authority to grant parents the rights to the upbringing of their children, then that implies that the government has the authority to take those rights away. Today, we're going to be talking about a very scary bill that's moving through the Texas legislature and about the parental rights movement on a larger scale. Hey, everybody, I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America. And today I want to tell you about a House joint resolution in Texas that is moving through the legislature. What this is it's HJR 112, and it is a bill that's moving through the legislature. But what it does is it would amend the Texas state constitution. So that means once it passes through the legislature, it would go on the ballot for a vote of the people. There are a lot of good conservatives in the state of Texas that are fighting against this bill because while it may be messaged and promoted as a means to protect the rights of parents, it also has an alarming red flag in the bill that should cause great concern for citizens. This is a short bill. Let's take a quick look at what we've got going on here in Texas. The resolution reads, a parent has the inherent right to exercise care, custody, and control of the parent's child and to make decisions for the upbringing of the parent's child. The state and or a political subdivision of this state shall not interfere with the rights of a parent described by subsection A of this section unless the interference is essential to further a compelling governmental interest and narrowly tailored to accomplish that compelling governmental interest. Now, I don't know about you, but after 2020 and experiencing COVID and all of the governmental interest that we had going on during those years, this is extremely alarming to me, and I don't want any compelling governmental interest interfering with me and my family. If you've been a watcher of the channel for any length of time, you probably have heard me talk about my family story with Washington State in 2021. My daughter was 14 at the time and in a mental health crisis, and Seattle's Children's Hospital sent her without my consent to go live in a youth homeless shelter. Unbeknownst to me, this was legal within Washington state, and that sent me down a rabbit hole, which I seem to still be in today. But what I discovered is that these laws in Washington state that allow the state to circumvent parents and take authority away from parents had been made over decades, and they had chipped away bill after bill after bill over decades. And so to repeal these bad bills would be a very, very long process. Many states, as you've probably heard, have passed so called parents' bills of rights, primarily because of what we've seen in the last few years with schools and medical providers having these authorities over parents, where children usually it's like 13 and over, are able to make certain medical decisions without the consent or notification of their parents. So there have been a number of red states that have tried to take action to protect families against that. And while these measures are good intentioned and the idea of a parent's bill of rights is to protect the family, it is also a way of the government saying, we're going to dictate where parents have rights, which means the government can also take those rights away. Depending on who is in the legislature of a state at any given time, these laws can easily be changed if you got, a Democrat majority in a red state or a bunch of rhinos that decide that parents actually shouldn't have rights after a child is 15 years old. So I have a big problem with these parents' bill of rights because I feel that as parents, our rights are given to us by God, not the government. And when the government decides which rights we as parents have, that implies that the government can also take those rights away, which we have seen in many states where they have really kneecapped parents' authority in their children's lives. For me, this is a bigger issue than just parents' rights because over the last couple decades, with the legalization of same-sex marriage and the rise in big fertility and the ability for couples, same-sex couples, to purchase children through surrogacy, adoption, or other means, embryo adoption, many children are being born and then handed off to people who are not their biological parents. And so those same sex couples that have adopted, purchased a child would be parents and they would have parental rights. And so I think there's a much larger conversation, which is much bigger than this one short video that I'm going to be able to share. But something I want you to start to think about is the idea of children's rights. A child has a right to a mother and a father. A child has a right to be protected by their parents. We have overlooked the rights of children for the rights and interests of adults. It is the adults that want to be able to purchase a child because two men cannot make a baby or two women cannot make a baby. And so they want to purchase a child. And we don't often think about how is that going to impact the child? The child doesn't get to have a say that they don't have a mom and a dad, that they're born with two dads. How is that fair to the child? If you are a parent and have experienced childbirth, whether you're a dad or a mom, you know that there's that immediate bond with your child. For moms, for me, I remember each of my kids, it was a little more difficult when I had twins, but with each of my kids, the first thing I did was put them on my chest. And that way they get to smell me and hear my heartbeat because that's all that those babies know. They know their mom. That's all they know. And in this big fertility business where children are treated like commodities, they're taken away from the only mother that they know, the only thing they know, and they're being placed into these homes. So, not just from an aspect of parental rights, but this is a much larger issue of children's rights. And I think it's one of the biggest fights of our time. I think that we need to get back to finding ways to protecting children. The legalization of same sex marriage, the rise in big fertility, and allowing the purchase of children has been hugely detrimental to children. And it has been selfish for adults. And many people on what I'll say the right have thought, well, the legalization of same sex marriage, that's fine because we need to be compassionate and inclusive. And how is that harming me? Well, probably 20 years ago, we didn't predict that these same sex marriages would result in children being purchased in such large numbers. And what does that do to these children? We think that the big fertility industry is okay because of course two men can't have a baby and they just want to be happy and loving. And of course they're going to love the child. And I imagine they do love the child, but a child has that by nature. A child wants a mother and a father. And we have done a very lousy job, myself included, because I haven't been engaged until like just the last 8 years, the last 4 or 5 years mostly. But we have not been engaged and we have looked the other way because same sex couple, not my problem. But who is going to speak up for these kids if not us? We have a duty to speak up for these kids. And so I wanted to take this HJR 112 in Texas as an opportunity to kind of open the door to a conversation about the rights of children. And somebody who's really, really good about this is Katie Faust. She's the founder of Them Before Us. She lives in Washington State with her family, but she is really good about beating the drum about the rights of children. And this is something that I think we need to shift this parental rights to the rights of children. And I'm very much against this HJR 112 in Texas. And I think it's a shame that in a red state with a Republican led legislature, you have the conservatives on the ground, specifically groups like Grayson County conservatives, who are having to fight garbage legislation like this that is a huge threat to family rights and to parents having that God-given authority over their children's lives to be in charge of their upbringing and their decisions and everything. This is a huge problem for families in Texas, and it would be really great if the Republicans in these red states could focus on policy that is actually conservative without giving the government a foothold into our families. I'm going to have a link to the resolution in the description of this video. I'm also going to link you to the Grayson County Conservatives because they're just doing an excellent job in Texas. They are loud. They have got a huge grassroots game. They fought the school choice bill that passed in Texas, which is more government reach into the education of the children of Texas. And so, again, that's why we say homeschool your kids, keep the government as far out of your family life as you possibly can. But they're doing really good work. I'm going to have a link to them as well. If you are in Texas, even if you're not in Texas, be sure to go give them a follow. They're doing great things in Texas. And I think it's really important for us as conservatives to build coalitions with other conservatives, even if we're not in the same state. I think it's going to be really important for all of us to work together. But we hope that this HJR 112 will be defeated in the legislature and not even show up on the ballot, because then that's going to take a huge effort by conservatives to make sure that the messaging gets out to citizens so that it doesn't pass and become part of the Texas state constitution. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this whole parental rights messaging and shifting to children's rights. I see the parental rights messaging as being about we, the parents, and really what we need to be focused on is the children. In many states, the definition of parent has been changed, including in Washington state. A couple of years ago, they changed the definition of family and parent. So this is a huge problem. But the one thing that doesn't change is the definition of child. And our children deserve to be protected. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you will share this video. If you're not already, please do subscribe to the channel and subscribe to our Substack, which is the best place to get breaking alerts and calls to action. I look forward to seeing you next time.